So hello dear students, welcome to GDC classes English. So in today's class we are going to see about pharmaceutical engineering. In that many important chapters will be there, and in today's class we are going to see about heat transfer, what are the process involved in the heat transfer. Then we will see about the evaporation, and then we will see about the distillation. So let's start with the very first topic, that is heat transfer. So basically heat transfer, it can be within the same fluid, it can be from liquid to gas, or it can be from the source to the vessel or to the container. So depending upon what is involved, there are different mechanism including conduction, then convection is there, and the radiation. So let's see about what is heat transfer. So heat flow from high region temperature to a lower region temperature. Wherever heat is high, from there it will transfer to a region of lower temperature. So according to the principle of thermodynamic, whenever physical or chemical transformation occurs, heat flows into or leaves the system. Either heat will flow inside or it will leave the system. So that is nothing but the mechanism of thermodynamics. So if you see the diagram here, you can see here this is a source from where the heat is generated. This is a vessel. Now if it is transferring from the source into the gas in the form of radiation, it is known as radiation. The mechanism involved, it is known as radiation. For example, if we keep water into this, the below surface will have higher heat as compared to the upper surface. So the heat will transfer from higher in a higher temperature to the lower temperature. So the transfer of heat within the liquid, that is known as convection. And for example, if it is transferring through this container, it is known as conduction. So these are the three mechanisms in which the heat transfer is involved from higher temperature to lower temperature. Now let's see first mechanism, which is conduction. So conduction is a process in which heat flow in a body. It is achieved by the transfer of the momentum of individual atoms or molecules without mixing. So here conduction means only the momentum of the molecules are involved, but not mixing. Mixing as such is not involved, and it is given by Fourier's law. Now Fourier's law states that the rate of heat flow through a uniform material is proportional to the area and the temperature. Definitely, higher the surface area, higher will be the rate of flow, and higher the temperature difference between those 2 points, that is higher temperature and lower temperature, the heat transfer will be more. That is the reason when you keep water which you have just boiled at 100 degrees Celsius, and if you keep it at room temperature, the difference in the temperature in the room temperature and that boiling water initially is very high. That is the reason initially from 100 to, for example, 70 60, it will come very fast. Why? Because the difference between that water and the room temperature is very high. But for example, if it comes at 40, then it will take so much time to come at 30 degrees Celsius. So that is the reason the heat flow is directly proportional to the temperature difference and the area. And it is inversely proportional to the thickness. Higher the thickness, more time it will take to for the flow of the heat. So this is given by Fourier's law. So it states that the rate of heat flow through a uniform material is proportional to the area and the temperature drop. Temperature drop means temperature difference, and it is inversely proportional to length of the path flow. Now Q, which is rate flow, is equal to Km, that is a constant. A is equal to surface area, and T1 minus T2 is the temperature difference, and L is nothing but the thickness or the length, which is inversely proportional. So A is equal to area, temperature difference, thickness, mean proportionality constant, and coefficient of thermal conductivity. So this is given by Fourier's law, which states about the heat of flow. Now coming to convection, it is a process in which heat flow is achieved by actual mixing. Now in conduction, the mixing process was not involved, but in convection, the mixing, the agitation process is involved. It mixes the warmer portion with the cooler portion of the same material. For example, water. If you stir it, if you mix it, and if the energy is transferring from hotter molecules to a colder molecules, then it is known as convection. Radiation, it is an energy transfer process in which heat flows through a space for example, airspace. So because of the electromagnetic radiation, so radiations are involved. So these are the three mechanisms by which heat flow takes place. Now in the convection, either it can be forced convection or it can be natural convection. Forced convection means actual mixing of fluid by the use of stirrer or agitator we are using, that is a forced convection. Or pumping the fluid for recirculation. If we are pumping the fluid, recirculation means for again and again time period, the warmer portion will be mixed properly and cooler portion will come at that place. So proper mixing will happen, but this is a forced convection. For example, if tube evaporators we are using, so that is a forced convection. Now natural convection, it is defined as a heat transfer convection process in which mixing of fluid is accomplished by currents which is set up when body fluid is heated up. For example, if you keep water for boiling, automatically you will see the bubbles which will go upside. Again, the downward bubbles will go upside like this without mixing. That is a natural convection which is happening. So example here it is given, pan evaporator. Pan evaporator is an example of natural convection. So in forced convection, stagnant films are of great importance in determining the rate of heat transfer because we are mixing it again and again. So that is the reason stagnant films are important. So in natural convection, fluid circulation causes the changes in densities due to temperature difference. Because of that temperature difference, the density difference occurs and automatically the convection process will take place. Now equipment, so there are heat exchangers and there are heat interchangers. So heat exchangers, it can be from between one fluid to another fluid, whereas heat interchangers, it can be between one fluid to another or one gas to another. So heat exchangers means tubular heaters will be there, some shell and tube heaters, multi-pass heaters, two-pass floating head heaters. And in case of heat interchangers, device used for transferring heat from one liquid to another through a metal wall. So if we are using any of the metal wall in between the transfer of the heat, it is known as heat interchangers. And if we are not using, it is known as heat exchangers. So some baffles will be there, double pipe heat interchangers, liquid to liquid interchangers. So these all involve the metal wall in between them. Hence it is known as heat interchangers. Now there are two types of bodies. First is black body and the gray bodies. So black body, it defined as the body that radiates maximum possible amount of energy at a given temperature. Black body means it will radiate maximum possible amount of energy. So normally what happen, hot bodies emit radiation. Hot bodies will emit radiation. Now according to Stephen Boltzmann law, it gives the total amount of radiation emitted by the black body. Now this is the law. What this law suggests, that the energy radiated per second, Q is equal to B into A into T raised to 4. Now Q indicates energy which is radiated per second, because here we say that hot bodies emit the radiation. So what is the energy which is radiated per second? It is equal to constant. B is nothing but constant. A is the area of that radiating surface. Definitely if area is more energy will be radiated, and T is nothing but absolute temperature of that surface. Higher the temperature means higher energy will be radiated. So this is nothing but Stephen Boltzmann law. But these are the black bodies. Now the actual black bodies do not radiate as much as black bodies. So for actual black bodies, the equation has little bit variation. So that is nothing but Q is equal to m slong, and the rest of the equation is same, that is B into A raised to B into A into T raised to 4. Now E m slong indicates the emissivity of that actual body. Now when emissivity is equal to the absorptivity of that black body, so emissivity becomes equal to that absorptivity. So in that case, the actual bodies will behave as a black body. So that is the reason it is not given here. When emissivity is equal to absorptivity, then the substance is considered as black body, because what is emitting and the same amount is absorbing. So at that condition it will behave as a black body. So in that equation, Q is equal to B into A into T raised to 4. So this is the equation. Remember, this is for the black bodies. Gray bodies, it is defined as that body whose absorptivity is constant. Remember, in case of black body, they are radiating maximum possible amount of energy, whereas in gray body, absorptivity is constant at all the wavelengths of radiation and at a given temperature. So they may ask you, like, in gray body, absorptivity is constant, is changing uh, at different wavelengths, like that questions may come. So remember, it is constant at all the wavelengths. So this was all about the heat transfer and their mechanism. The next is about the evaporation. So we know that it is the process of vaporizing large quantities of volatile liquid to get concentrated product. So whatever surface will be there, that will get evaporated. So the now factors influencing evaporation. So what are the factors? Higher the temperature, higher will be the evaporation, because more molecules, liquid molecules will get converted into gaseous molecules. So higher the temperature, more evaporation will occur. Vapor pressure, remember what is vapor pressure. For example, if you feel a glass of water, or if you feel a bottle of a water, so there are certain molecules which is existing above that liquid, which is creating their own pressure. So it is known as vapor pressure. So every gas molecules, they exert their own vapor pressure. So rate of evaporation is directly proportional to vapor pressure of liquid. So this liquid will also have their own vapor pressure, which is exerting. So rate of evaporation, higher the vapor pressure, higher will be the rate of evaporation. Next is surface area. So the greater the surface area of the liquid, greater will be the evaporation, because more molecules are exposing to the outer surface, external surface or temperature. So surface area is more, rate of evaporation will also be greater. Agitation, it breaks the scums or the layers and increase the rate of evaporation. Once it gets saturated, if you are mixing again and again, more area will get exposed to the evaporation, and hence agitation or mixing will increase the rate of evaporation. Now, classification of evaporators. Now there are different instruments or the equipments which are used. So evaporation with heating mediums in the jacket. So evaporation pan. So steam jacketed kettles are there. Evaporation with tubular heating surface. Tubes like structures will be present. So horizontal tube means horizontal tube evaporators will be there. Vertical means either short tube, that is a single effect, short tube vertical evaporators will be used. Multiple effect means triple effect over evaporators will be used. Long tube, so the natural circulation and the forced circulation will be there. So climbing film evaporator, that is a rising film evaporator, climbing one. So forced circulation evaporator, this is the another type. Next is about the evaporating pan. So that is a steam jacketed kettles. So these are the jacketers which will restrict the movement of the heat. So that is the reason steam jacketed kettles are used. So it contains the liner as pan and used for aqueous and thermostat leakers. So generally which are aqueous or thermostat fluids are there, for that evaporating pans are used. Next is about the vacuum pans. Vacuum used for thermolabile materials. Certain materials for evaporation temperature is required, but certain materials, they are susceptible to higher temperature. That is the reason it is known as thermolabile, means temperature will degrade those materials. So in that case, vacuum pans are used. So if we apply the vacuum, the boiling point will be reduced, so they will start evaporating at a lower temperature. So instead of evaporating or subjecting them to higher temperature, we are using vacuum, because vacuum will reduce the boiling point of that substance. Next is evaporating steels. So used for thermolabile materials. Again, for thermolabile it is used. Horizontal tube evaporators. So used for liquors that do not crystallize, crystallization and not form scale and non-scale viscous. So the materials which are not, which will not form the crystallization and scale and non-scale viscous, for that horizontal tube evaporators are used. Vertical tube evaporators, that is calandria. So remember this one. So it is basically used in sugar industry, concentrate cascara extract, and not for foamy liquid. So something after agitation, if it is going to form foam, then for that reason it is not used. Vertical tube evaporator. Now the another vertical tube evaporator is a basket type, which can be used for sugar, salt and some heavy chemicals. Climbing film, we have already seen climbing film. So that is a Kestner tube. Remember, these types are important. Kessner tube is which type of evaporator? So that is a climbing film evaporator. It is basically used for insulin, vitamins, blood plasma, liver extract, like thermolabile material and for foamy corrosive liquids, but it is not used for the viscous liquids because of its high viscosity. It becomes difficult for the climbing film evaporators. Next is about the distillation. So it is defined as the separation of the components of a liquid mixture by a process which involves the vaporization and the subsequent condensation at another place. Now we know that distillation means if two liquids are there which are having certain difference in their boiling points, then we are using this technique of distillation. Here you can see, here this is a flask. So the materials which have a lower boiling point, so that will evaporate first and that will be here condensed. So this is a condenser that will cool down that liquid, and here it will be collected, and you can just remove the flask and keep the another flask once the first liquid is collected and the second. But the only thing is there has to be a difference in their boiling point. So this is the mechanism for distillation. So it is defined as the separation of the components of a liquid mixture by a process which is involving vaporization and the subsequent condensation at another place. So Jabir ibn Hayyan, that he has discovered this distillation. Remember this one. So there are different types of distillation. First is simple distillation, which is also known as differential distillation. Remember, simple distillation, it is also known as differential distillation. So the preparation of distilled water, water for injection, volatile and aromatic waters, organic. So for these reasons, the simple distillation is used. Organic solvents, they can be purified. For example, ethanol is there. So you can just set the temperature. Here burner is given, but sometimes uh, you can set the temperature at a specific, you can set the temperature as specific value, and at that temperature the solvent will start evaporating. So for non-volatile solids are separated from a volatile liquids. Volatile liquid means it will evaporate, it will be condensed, and the solid and liquid will get separated. CFU value and the endotoxin contents usually increases. Then next is flash distillation, the another type. So equilibrium distillation. So it is widely used in petroleum industry for refining crude oil. So if crude oil contains any of the volatile impurities, that can also be removed or it can be extracted using flash distillation. Next is fractional distillation, which is also known as rectification. Remember the alternative names wherever it will come. So it is used for the separation of the miscible liquids such as acetone and water, chloroform and benzene. Because they have certain difference in their boiling points, they can be separated. Although miscible, but they can be separated. If it is immiscible, then simply separating funnel is sufficient to separate the two liquids. But if it is miscible, then it becomes difficult. So in that case, we can easily go for fractional distillation. Irrespective of whatever the distillation, the mechanism is same, the principle is same. Next is about the azeotropic, that is extractive distillation. So in that case, absolute alcohol can be prepared by azeotropic distillation. Sometimes they may ask you like absolute alcohol can be prepared by which type of distillation. So that is azeotropic distillation. Petroleum refineries and distilleries use these types of distillation. Steam distillation, it is an example of differential distillation which we have seen previously. So it is used for the separation of immiscible liquids, the liquids which cannot be mixed together. Examples are like toluene and water, but since they have difference in the boiling point, they can be separated by steam distillation. It is used for extracting most of the volatile oils. Now we have seen earlier volatile oils, they can be easily separated using these techniques like clove, anise and eucalyptus oil. It is useful in purification of the liquid with high boiling point. For example, essential oil of almond. Camphor is distilled by this method. Remember camphor, it is distilled by this method. Aromatic waters are prepared by this method. So aromatic waters, they are also prepared by this method. Next is about the molecular distillation. So evaporative distillation or short path distillation, it is used for the purification and the separation of chemicals which are having lower vapor pressure. They are having lower vapor pressure. So purification of chemicals such as tricresyl phosphate, dibutyl phthalate, dimethyl phthalate. So these are the certain things which can be used, more frequently used in the refining of the fixed oil. Fixed oil means those are not volatile. So if we want the purification of these types of oils, then molecular distillation can be used. Vitamin A is separated from fish liver oil using molecular distillation. Destructive distillation, so it is a distillation method in which distillate is decomposition products of the constituents of the organic matter burnt in the absence of the air. So to remove these kinds of the materials, destructive distillation is used. Next is compression distillation, used for obtaining fresh water from seawater which is pyrogen free. So that is a compression distillation. So remember the important thing, sometimes what happened during distillation, there are chances of bumping of that flask or bumping of the solution inside that. So to avoid that, we are adding porcelain pieces, porcelain dish, that material. So pieces of that is added. If the distillation graph using McCabe method is parallel to x-axis, then the feed is saturated liquid. Because it is parallel to x-axis, it is known as saturated liquid. And the boiling point of chloroform is 332 Kelvin. So this was all about the three important topics. So we will see the upcoming topics in the next session. So till then, thank you so much.